Student loan relief, right or wrong? Hey everyone, Adam Bergman here, tax attorney and founder of IRA Financial. Welcome to another episode of Adam Talks. Breaking news, President Biden announced student loan relief. So I wanted to do a podcast on this because is it right or wrong to offer relief of $10,000 or $20,000 of loan payments to folks, making less than 125 or 250,000, married, filed jointly? Is it right to just kind of pick and choose what you're going to offer relief, whether it's loans versus mortgage or medical bills? Is it fair? If someone makes $230,000 and they make a bad decision about what college they go to, are they in a position? Should they be in a position to be granted relief? Tough call, right? But what I did want to explore is the rising cost of college, what the loan relief will actually look like, what it's going to solve, and then kind of talk about the bigger problem, because loan relief is really just, adding some chemotherapy to a body ravaged by cancer. The cost of education will not be fixed by granting student loan relief to some folks. We got a way bigger issue. If we want to compete with China and maintain our position as the leading economy and the most efficient and qualified workforce, we are going to really need to do something to reduce the cost of education, because unfortunately, some of our smartest and brightest kids, young folks, are making academic decisions based off costs and not on academics, which is crazy. And I'll go through some of the costs of colleges in different countries. And then we can chat about, where we are, what makes sense. Are we going along the right path? Should the head football coach of a university be the highest paid employee? Yes, the football program is bringing in lots of revenue, but it's staying generally in the athletic departments. And it is a school, right? It's not the NFL. It is a school. The main purpose should be academics. I think, personally, I'm a huge sports fan. I do love college football, college basketball. But, are we kind of messed up in terms of our motives, our motivations, our goals? Are we just, as a society, just totally warped and lost track of what's really important? That's educating our young generation so they could keep America great and keep us and our workforce and our economy strong. So we'll see. But let's talk about some of the rising costs of college. We all know this, right? If you're a parent, I got younger kids. Thankfully, I don't have to pay for college yet, but actually probably not so thankful, because costs are going to keep going up. So now if you go to a private university, you have to expect it's going to cost you $70,000 a year, including room and board for your kid, which is just absolutely bonkers. To take 12 credits a semester, so 24 credits of classes that are definitely interesting and cool, but not really going to move the needle in terms of their ability to earn a living. So is it worth it? In some cases, not. We'll go through some examples of what is going on. But since 1980, the total cost of four-year public and four-year private college has nearly tripled, even after accounting for inflation. Okay, federal support is not kept up. Pell Grants, which is the largest federal grant program for low-income taxpayers, covered nearly 80% of the cost. Now it's essentially a third of the cost. The Department of Education, the typical undergraduate student with loans now graduates with nearly $25,000 in debt. Okay, that's average. You go to law school. I have friends that have 200,000 plus when you add in their undergrad and law school. So yeah, they're hopefully going to be making good money. But even in law school, if you don't finish top 25% of your class, you may not be making more than 60 grand a year. You could actually make less than a waiter or waitress by graduating law school. I've seen it. I have neighbors that graduated law schools and are making $20 an hour essentially. So there's nothing guaranteed. So the current student loan crisis is $1.6 trillion of federal student loan debt. It's more than 45 million borrowers. And obviously the biggest burden's on the middle class, right? Rich people can pay for this stuff. They save, they have a high income. They have 529 plans, state saving plans, and they're able to save and help their kids pay for college. One of the biggest advantages I had is I had no debt when I graduated college and law school. Why? I grew up in Canada. And I think probably for a year of university, and I went to McGill University, which is, you know, top school in Canada. I think it was like $3,000 for the whole year. And in fact, one year, the students went on strike because they wanted to raise tuition like $100, something, you know, insignificant. But that's how serious Canada is about education. And honestly, I went to school in Canada. I went to law school in the US. I have a master's in tax law from NYU, and the level of education is stronger in Canada, even though it has less resources. Why? Because the resources are actually going to the teachers and not to the football team. And again, it's coming from a huge sports fan, but reality is, if you support football, you probably should be following the NFL, not college. College should be about academics, not about you know, how good your football team is. But that's the society we live in. I think that's one of the issues that we're having. Let's see what else are some important facts. Many of the students could not complete their degree. So the issue is, right, there's a lot of these for-profit schools out there that are out there charging lots of money, promising all these future degrees, and you know, none of this is materializing. But it's hurting low income, especially African Americans. 25 years after enrolling in school, the typical African American borrower who started college in 1995, 1996 still owes 95% of their original student debt. Not cool. So here are some key facts to chew on. In summary, about 1.75 trillion in student loan debt. That includes federal and private loans. Average around 29,000 owed per borrower, including federal and private loans. But 92% of all student debt are federal student loans. The remaining amount is private, right? So most people are getting federal loans, only about 8 to 10% are private. 55% of students from public four-year institutions had student loans, and 57% of students from private nonprofit four-year institutions took on education debt. So what's the Biden solution? The Biden solution is the Department of Education will provide up to $20,000 in debt cancellation, and the debt cancellation will not be subject to income tax, to Pell Grant recipients with loans held by the Department of Education, and up to $10,000 in debt cancellation to non-Pell Grant recipients. This is from federal debt, not private debt. Borrowers are eligible for this relief if their individual income is less than $125,000 or $250,000 for married couples. Essentially, no high-income individuals or high-income households in the top 5% of incomes will benefit from this. Okay, so Biden really wants to help middle class, low-income class folks who have student debt. The average student debt is $29,000, and helping them take care of most of that. Good or bad? Well, depends where you sit, right? Clearly, if you have student debt, you're jumping for joy right now because most of it's going to be gone. If you've paid all your debt off and done what you thought was the right thing and struggled to pay off debt, didn't go on certain vacations, forego certain purchases just to pay off your student debt, and now you've turned on the television, or you've checked your Twitter feed, and you see that Biden's going to offer relief to certain people of $20,000 to $10,000, probably not the most content. So it's where you sit. Will this cause inflation? Possibly, right? Some people are gonna have more money in their pocket. Maybe they're gonna spend more money. Maybe they'll save it. Who knows? But again, there's millions of people that will benefit from this. But as we'll see in a few minutes, it's not really going to solve the problem, right? Because universities are still charging way too much. Private, public colleges are still charging way too much. Second highest in the world. And only the UK has actually a higher cost on public education. So what's a Pell Grant, just in case you don't have one? It's essentially the largest grant program offered by the Department of Education to undergrad students. It really doesn't cover grad, only undergrad. It's a form of federal financial aid. It typically does not have to be repaid, which makes it highly desirable. It's awarded to the U.S. Department of Education to help eligible low-income students pay for their college costs, including tuition, fees, room and board, and other educational expenses. It's generally the maximum in 21, 22 is about $6,500. The minimum is about $650. So there's thousands of schools that are part of the Pell Grant program. So obviously, lots of people are using it, and this relief will provide up to $20,000. Plus, it will also offer up to $10,000 in just debt relief from non-Pell federal grants of federal loan programs. So again, you got to be under 125 or 250 married couples. So it's gonna help millions and millions of people. The Biden administration expects that if everyone participates that's eligible, up to 43 million borrowers will receive benefits, and full cancellation for roughly 20 million. Okay, that's a lot of people. But they also have other things they're trying to do. They're trying to target relief dollars to low and middle income borrowers. The Department of Education estimates that among borrowers who are no longer in school, nearly 90% of relief dollars will go to those earning less than 75,000. So they think most of the money that's going to be allocated here will go to people earning less than 75K. They expect this to help borrowers of all age. Borrowers who are eligible for relief, 21% are 25 years and under. 44% are age 26 to 39. And more than a third of borrowers age 40 and up, including 5% of borrowers who are senior citizens. Okay, so this should help people across the board. They expect it to advance racial equity, equality. We saw that with African Americans who, for some reason, are having a tougher time, paying off their debt. So that's something that they're excited about, and something that the program will help. They're also going to pause federal student loan repayments. It'll be extended one final time through 2022. So you still don't have to pay your payments to COVID, and they're going to extend that another year. So that's helped some folks out. They also want to make the student loan system more manageable. They want to fix the broken public service loan forgiveness program. And they also want to protect future students and taxpayers by reducing the cost of college and holding schools accountable where they hike up prices. We talked about some of these private schools that are, online type schools that have really, done some misadvertising, and the Department of Education is at least more focused on enforcement to some of these schools where there's high debt and very little payoff. So what's going on here? What's the problem? The problem, as I mentioned, is not really the loan relief, the loans. The issue is the cost of education. So let's look at some of the other advanced countries and what they're charging. So Germany is the best case. They charge $0 for higher education. France, about $217 on average. Okay. Switzerland, about $1,168. Netherlands, $2,400. China, $3,300 to $9,000. Okay. So top universities are 10 G's in China, but the average ones are around $3,000 to $4,000. Now, again, we're competing with China, right? They want to take over from the U.S. as the most powerful economy in the world. How do you do that? Well, if you run a business, you can't do anything without people, whether it's construction, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's consulting, law, business, finance. You need smart people. How do people generally get smarter? Is they learn. They get taught by professors, academics, and they have good training. So China is allowing more of their population to go to school for a lot less than we do. South Korea, 4,500. Australia, 4,700. Canada, 4,900. Okay. Japan, 5,200. US, 8,000 or so. UK, 12. Okay. And that's average. We know some of the top schools are 70, 80,000, whether it's Ivy League, some top private schools. And that's the issue, which I'm going to chat about in a sec. So they believe nearly all Pell Grant recipients come from families with income of 60,000 or less. And they feel strongly, the Biden administration, that a lot of this relief, the $20,000 in Pell Grant relief, are going to help, folks under $75,000. So is it fair or not? Again, it's going to help 43 million plus potential people from all age groups. Yeah, it sucks if you've, over the last number of years, if you've worked hard and saved and were diligent in your savings and were scrupulous in your financial planning, and you paid off all your student debt, and now all these folks that weren't get basically free handout. Kind of sucks. I understand it. So yeah, I'm not really going to pass judgment on it, but what I do want to focus on is the problem. Okay, and the problem is the cost of education. Do I have an answer? No. Do I think the federal government needs to provide more subsidies to states, so at least state schools can reduce the cost of their education? Yes. Is there anything federal government can do to private schools? Probably not, right? What can we do? Refuse to go to college? Not really an option, right? If you get into Yale or Princeton, you're going to figure out a way to go. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. I've told this story before. There's a gentleman I know, African American, and his son got into Yale. He's a baseball player. Got into Yale. Okay, got into a bunch of other schools. Super smart kid, obviously. Got into Yale, and he was going to get a very minor scholarship, like under 10,000. So it was going to cost the dad and the parents, 65,000 a year or so with tuition, room and board. And he also got a free ride to a school in Orlando, a small school, not a school I even heard of, but to play baseball. The academics were, obviously just in a different stratosphere than Yale. And he ended up taking the free school just out of cost. And so here's an example of someone who maybe is the next scientist, next doctor, next president. And he had to defer, turn down Yale to go to a school that's not as strong academically because of money. And that shouldn't be the case. We are in the richest country in the world, most powerful economy in the world. Our kids should be able to go to school. And yes, not every kid can go to Harvard, agreed. But the kids that get into Harvard should be able to go. Okay. I think it's crazy that semester can cost $35,000 to $40,000 a year for 12 to 15 credits. I mean, God, I took art of listening in college, right? Like that's the same credit cost of, physics or biology or English lit. Like, let's be honest, whoever went to college knows, like most of the classes are kind of bobo. They're interesting. I took art history, I took philosophy, I took political science classes, history, some really cool stuff. But do I remember anything? No, right? It's more about the experience and the ability to meet people from different parts of the country and the world and living on your own and partying. But it's really just like a beer crawl, right? Or a bar crawl. It's kind of what the 4 years is. And the costs are getting to the point where, smart people, young people are just saying, hey, I can't do it. It's not worth it. I'm going to go to a school with a lesser academic profile. And, ultimately, is that hurting our country, right? Are we producing less efficient, less educated workforce? And the answer is probably yes. I think we're more focused on sports in school than academics, right? No one knows who the top professor is at a school, but you certainly know who the head football or basketball coach is, right? We know who's in the Final Four, who's in the BCS championship game. No one really knows who the most important professors are at the school. And I think our priorities are just backwards. And until we kind of get things straightened out, which I don't think we are, right? The way the TV contracts are for football and college basketball, it keeps escalating. And that's kind of our priority, right? How many times do you hear that kids go to school? Like I saw somewhere when Clemson won the national championship a bunch of years ago in football, like their rate of application rate like went up like 80%, right? People want to be associated with winners. And unfortunately, football and basketball are what people look at instead of academics. So the student loan package, the relief package will help. Yeah, it's going to help some folks free up some cash, but it's not going to solve the problem because costs keep escalating. I can only imagine what the cost will be in 7-8 years when my kids have to go to university or college, and whether we even do it. In fact, I'm probably going to get my kids a Canadian passport and try to get them to school in Canada. And again, America is the best country in the world. I love being American, but the education system is a joke. The fact that people are paying $70,000 to drink beer for 4 years is ridiculous. Again, I went to McGill. I didn't go to one football game, one basketball game, one hockey game. I was there to learn, and I worked my butt off, and I had fun. I still partied and went out Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, but I studied, and teachers were available, and the resources were for learning, not for football and tailgating. So we got to figure out what we want, get serious. If we want to continue to be the strongest economy and have the most efficient and smartest workforce, then we got to bring the cost of education down, get more people into schools, and focus on education versus playing football or basketball. And that's coming from a sports freak. But hey, let's focus on the NBA and NHL and NFL, and let schools be about learning and teaching and less about sports, and let the professional leagues be about sports. But until we do that, this is a vote buy too. Let's be honest, right? When a party gives you free money, you probably are more likely to vote for them. So yeah, it's going to help millions of people out, but it's going to create a lot more voters for the Democratic Party, which they're smart enough to do it. Good for them. But will it fix the system? No, the system's broken. It's in big trouble. The federal government can only do so much, right? It can't tell Harvard what to charge in tuition. But at some point, we need to do something and say, hey, we're not going to pay for this. We're going to figure it out. And maybe got people like Elon Musk and other folks like Warren Buffett could figure out a way to create universities. Don't run them, have academics run them, but subsidize tuition. Create your own private universities where the cost of education is affordable, right? If schools in Canada can do it, and trust me, the level of education is far superior than any of the schools here. And I went to Ivy League schools here. And I have friends that went to Ivy League schools here. It's far superior in Canada. How are they doing it at $4,000 a year versus 80? Right? It's just allocation of cost and just having priorities, prioritizing academics, education over football and basketball. It's the bottom line. But anyways, just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on this. This is my take. Obviously, there's probably 40 million people that are jumping for joy. They're going to save tons of money on loan payments. And for the folks that paid off the loans, it sucks. But you did the right thing. You had a debt. You signed the document, you signed the loan agreement, and you did your part as a borrower. So ultimately, kudos. But yeah, sucks that you kind of did the right thing, and now others are kind of get a free ride. So kind of the way the system is it fair or not? Like I said, should the relief be towards medical bills, towards mortgage relief, towards rental income? Or rental costs. I don't know. I'm not a politician. I'm not in Congress, but ultimately, it will help a lot of people and do some good. And that's just the way it is. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But it is a serious issue. We are in the best country in the world, but if we want to maintain our standard and be the best, continue to be the best for our kids and our grandkids, we got to figure out a way to reduce costs of education, get our kids into schools and have them focused on school and not partying and football and basketball and tailgating, but actually learning so they could become better educated, better workers, and ultimately, help us stay on top and be the strongest economy and the most powerful country in the world, because that's ultimately our goal. So appreciate you guys. I know it was kind of a long-winded one. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't bore anyone, but I'm super passionate about this. I've went to law school. I have a master's in tax law. Education could help bring low income to middle income to high income. It's the one thing that bridges the gap. And irrespective of your skin color, religion, highly educated people that are passionate and hardworking will be successful. Companies will hire you, whether you have 3 heads, your color hair, you have earrings, your religion, no one cares. People want smart workers that are hardworking, and we need better universities that are more focused on that than how far someone can throw a football. So that's my take. Appreciate you guys listening. Have a great rest of your day, and take care.